before starting the form. Rakesh ji, permission granted?
Please, please, please.
Just a minute, sir. देखिए, नया नया टेक्नोलॉजी है हम जैसे लोगों के लिए, तो कई बार छोटी छोटी सी चीजें इसके अंदर
मुश्किल बहुत है मगर वक्त ही तो है, गुजर जाएगा, गुजर जाएगा। जिंदा रहने का ये जो जज्बा है फिर उभर आएगा, गुजर जाएगा, गुजर जाएगा। माना मौत चेहरा बदल कर आई है, माना मौत चेहरा बदल कर आई है, माना रात काली है, भयावह है, गहराई है। लोग दरवाजों पे रस्तों पे रुके बैठे हैं, लोग दरवाजों पे रस्तों पे रुके बैठे हैं। कई घबराए हैं, सहमे हैं, छिपे बैठे हैं। मगर यकीन रख, मगर यकीन रख, ये बस लम्हा है, 2 पल में बिखर जाएगा। जिंदा रहने का ये जो जज्बा है फिर असर लाएगा। मुश्किल बहुत है मगर वक्त ही तो है, गुजर जाएगा, गुजर जाएगा। बाजार खाली, सड़कें सूनी, मोहल्ले वीरान है। बाजार खाली, सड़कें सूनी, मोहल्ले वीरान है। खौफ बरपा है, हर तरफ लोग हैरान हैं। ये वो कहर है जो दुनिया को डराने आया, ये वो कहर है जो दुनिया को डराने आया। मगर नासमझ है जो इंसान को हराने आया। इतिहास गवाह है ये मसला भी सुलझ जाएगा, इतिहास गवाह है ये मसला भी सुलझ जाएगा। जिंदा रहने का ये जो जज्बा है गुम हुआ है, टूटा नहीं। जिंदा रहने का ये जो जज्बा है गुम हुआ है, टूटा नहीं। यही जज्बा फिर असर लाएगा, फिर उभर आएगा। मुश्किल बहुत है मगर वक्त ही तो है, गुजर जा।
यस सर, मुश्किल ही तो है बट ये भी वक्त गुजर जाएगा। दिस इज वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग फॉर टुडेज टाइम because everybody is aware about this. Friends, coming to the point of this webinar, as you know that this is very very important topic for all the chartered accountants, either they are in practice or they are in employment. Employment sense that those chartered accountants who are in the employment and dealing in income tax matters. So this is very very relevant topic. Today we have invited our eminent personalities from this profession of chartered accountancy, CA Dr. Rakesh Gupta ji and CA Somil Agrawal ji. If I'm talking about Rakesh Gupta ji, although he has given Devesh has given the introduction about Rakesh ji and Somil ji, but I would like to say something about Dr. Rakesh Gupta. Dr. Rakesh Gupta, he is not only the authority on the topic, on the subject, on the matters which are relevant for each and every professional. I would say that he is one of the finest person I have seen in my life. He is always extend his helping hand, and particularly especially for the young chartered accountant. And so in precisely speaking, I can say that he is a good human being. I always salute Dr. Rakesh Gupta for his humbleness always. Another speaker, CA Somil Agrawal, is also here, who is going to speak on this matter, in this topic. So, yes, Somil is a very, very young chartered accountant, young speaker. But I would say that I talk about him. He possesses the highest quality of professionalism. He is a very, very good speaker. Whatever I have gathered out of the webinars, seminars, which I have seen when Mr. Somil Agrawal is speaking. Rakesh ji, I would say Somil assessments are taking in a manner, and out of this, the demands of taxes are being raised. राकेश जी से मैं जब बात कर रहा था इसके बारे में, तो वो डिटेल डिस्कशन हो रहा था कि ये टॉपिक इतना ज्यादा इस समय, ये जो डिमांड्स के बारे में जो बात इस समय हम बात करने जा रहे हैं, दिस इज केवल हम उसको प्रोफेशनली बात ना करें, क्लाइंट के एंगल से भी अगर हम बात करें तो लॉट ऑफ प्रॉब्लम्स आर देयर फॉर विच वी रिक्वायर्ड द रेमेडीज. सो I would say how to deal the situation of recovery of the tax demands raised in an area that is baffled a lot of us as well as for the clients. I would request Somil ji and Rakesh ji take us through the all these difficulties, all these issues which are emerging out of this topic, because हम लोग एक प्रोफेशनल के नाते ही नहीं देखते, हम एज एक ट्रू प्रोफेशनल के नाते देखते हैं व्हाट काइंड ऑफ इश्यूज आर अराइजिंग आउट ऑफ दिस टू आवर क्लाइंट्स, दैट व्हाट काइंड ऑफ द हार्डशिप दे आर फेसिंग. सो आई वुड रिक्वेस्ट आवर बोथ द स्पीकर्स to cover all these practical aspects. I would request each one of you who are present here in this webinar to post their queries, their questions in the chat box. So time to time, either Rakesh Gupta ji or Somil ji would be taking the questions from the chat box, or I would be raising. In all probability, Somil ji is going to take all these questions. So with these words, friends, I am not going to take much of your time. So on behalf of all present here, we welcome again both the speakers, Rakesh ji and Somil ji, and we are going to have this full webinar. And I would say with 100% confidence that every participant is going to be benefited out of this 1.5 hours. That is the time for the webinar. Rakesh ji, I would request you to take up this. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Please.
Thank you, Vijay ji. I mean, for having spoken such nice words for both of us, and have taken this initiative. And the name which we have kept for this organization is very good, CA First. I mean, chartered accountants, I mean, are first, have to be first, or always first. I was speaking in Calcutta in the month of January in the regional conference. Then somebody said, sir, you have got so many degrees, CA, CAS, ICW, MBA, LLB, LLM, PhD and all. I said, CA first. I may be practicing as a lawyer because of some professional compulsions, because as a chartered accountant, I can't appear in High Court and Supreme Court. But then the first love, as it is said that you don't forget your first love, but I'm chartered accountant by heart, chartered accountant by, what should I say, from my inner core. So thank you once again. And this topic which we have selected, I mean, is very good. The format of these discussions which we have kept is that the Somil will, I mean, raise questions and then I'll answer. And then that is how we want to make it interactive. And then later on, as Vijay said, that the questions, whatever questions would be there. But then this topic is very important, of practical importance. And I would request only one request with utmost humility, that those who are doing something else other than listening, I mean, may keep their videos off, because then that obstructs me. And it is a way and mode of meditation to me. So kindly help me in this meditation. So Somil, now over to you.
Thank you, sir. My Guru Rakesh sir, respected Vijay Gupta sir, thank you so much for the kind word, the motivation and encouragement. Devesh ji, thank you for the initial introduction. So the topics are that we are discussing today: tax demands and the remedies thereof. Sir, assessments or assessment orders have been passed. The time limitation is around the corner. Assessment orders are about to be passed, which lead to raising of demands on account of addition disallowances which are made by the assessing officers. Apart from that, earlier, after filing of the return, 143(1) intimations may have been received, where also some adjustments which are there under 143(1) demands can be raised. So these are the demands where the assessee is in the capacity of assessee being assessed. But in the act, there may be certain situations, sir, where assessee though may not be an assessee, there may not be any assessment framed on the assessee, but demands may arise or recovery may be made from the assessee. Sir, 143(1), 143(3) that we have discussed, like requirement of assessee to deduct tax or to collect tax on behalf of the government and pay to the government. So on that account, though assessment is not made, but demands may arise. So in this background, sir, I'll request you to guide us and let us know what are the various tax demands that can be raised against the assessee in the capacity of the assessee, or where assessment has not been made, but still some demand can be raised on the assessee. Over to you, sir.
I can tell you that I have seen and experienced that the demands, when raised, are not many times attended to by us, by SSE, or as his representative by us. And this reluctance, non-indulgence leads to a situation where at a particular point of time, even the entire business of the SSE, may come to be immobile. As Somil has said, 143(1) adjustments. Now this is, such an area, which has got the poorest responses from us. I do not know why. Even that adjustment also creates a demand, and the demand is bound to be recovered from us. I have seen many of my chartered accountants friends. The intimations containing adjustments are received, or even if they are received, they remain unattended. And because of which that demand keeps on haunting and staring at the face of the taxpayer. So that is one kind of demand. Then of course the assessments are taking place. Now this time there is an extended time limit. Assessments are trickling in, and as the limitations would near, there will be abundance assessments, and assessments, the faceless assessments, are not much different from the faceful assessment. Initially, I was somewhat optimistic when I saw, a series of good assessment orders, but then of late, the kind of assessment orders are coming. Now I have started believing that my myth which I harbored now is broken. So assessments, they are raising demands. In reassessments, now again is only the assessment, the demands are raised. Then the search assessments under section 153 or 153C. Now these are the potent source of demand. Then the penalty orders be considered as a source of revenue collection, but nonetheless from the SSE's standpoint, this is something which the SSE will have to cough out. Then TDS, TCS, which I was obliged to deduct, but then I have not deducted. Then I may be treated as an SSE in default. The taxes may be recovered from me, and consequently there may be the penalty under section 271 capital C for non-deduction. Or even if I have deducted, but then I have not paid it to the government treasury, then also I may be held to be an SSE in default. And then in certain situations, the tax demands which have been raised in case of other persons, and that person owes money to me, then the garnishee notice may be served on me. He may be my debtor, and therefore he may be my creditor, and therefore, I mean, the income tax officer in his case may issue garnishee notice that instead of you paying to him, you pay to the government. So these are some forms of the tax demands or the penalty demands in various situations now, which can be required. Either you coming out voluntarily or by virtue of some coercive steps which can be taken by the department. So Somil, I mean, these are the source of raising tax demands against an assessee, against a person. And therefore, I mean, one has to take care of all these things.
So, sir, as you mentioned in your initial remark, 143.1. 143.1, generally what we have seen when it is received, we on the portal file 154. So is that a correct measure or the correct approach that only 154 should be filed, or what other avenues we should take care? Because that demand has to be taken care of at that point, or if subsequently say 143.2 notice has been received, an assessment proceeding is begun. So can we wait for that? That is first part of my question.
That is very good question. It's very good question. Let me answer this. Then you
Yes.
can go to the second limb of your question.
Yes, sir.
And this question seems to be prompted based upon your experience as a practicing lawyer. Now, we find, we see, we experience that, as I said in the beginning, that these intimations are shown the least amount of indulgence on our part. And one of the reason may be, as what Somil has said, that since we are filing a rectifications petition under section 154, so let us wait for the rectification petitions to be decided by the assessing officer, or in the meantime notice under section 143.2 has been served, and therefore when the assessment order will be made, then we will appeal. No, that is not, because I always say that you wield your weapon at the earliest occasion. Now, those things which are bound by limitation, I mean, should take precedence. Now, in the matter of 154, that 154 may be disposed of, may not be disposed of. And if it is not disposed of, or if it is disposed of not in your favor, then what? Suppose if it is not disposed, then what would you do? You cannot catch hold of the hand of an income tax officer, though there is a time limit prescribed under section 154. But then if he doesn't dispose, then what remedy do you have except to file a complaint to his boss or the boss of his boss? I mean, you cannot afford simply to go to the High Court to seeking a mandamus or directions to the assessing officer to dispose a 154 petition. So if he doesn't dispose, then you are stuck. The demand will keep on haunting and staring at your face. Now, even if he disposes it off, and thereafter then you would like to file an appeal, and your appeal then in that situation will be confined only to a very limited aspect. Kindly remember this thing which I am going to share with you based on my experience, because when you will file appeal against that 154 order, your challenge can be whether there was a mistake apparent from record or not. So by waiting for filing appeal against that 154, you are limiting your option. You are restricting the scope of your challenge. I mean, which otherwise you could have made it had you filed appeal against that 143.1. Therefore, never lose. It is a matter of 1,000 rupees as a filing fee. Never lose a chance to contest any adjustment or addition, because if you do not do so, and I tell you with utmost seriousness, now when will that demand catch you from the back like a mad dog? You never know, and at that time you will be I mean, taken by surprise. So even if you are moving 154, that is one weapon. Then there is another weapon that you must file appeal. For 154, there is no time limit, at least within the reasonably foreseeable future. 4 years time you can file rectifications petition, but this appeal has to be filed within 30 days. Now, if you wait that since you have received 143.2 and thereafter when 143.3 assessment, then you will file appeal. Now, at that stage, your grievance cannot be said to be arising out of the 143.3 order. Kindly, I mean, listen it with utmost care and caution. I am on a mission to share whatever little I have learnt with my friends. Now, because the genesis of this demand is not 143.3 order, the genesis of this demand is 143.1. Therefore, even in those cases where you have not filed appeal against that 143.1, you have not assailed that demand, immediately file an appeal. And you should think later on in terms of moving the condonation petition. I mean, so you file appeal against that 143.3 order, and that 143.3 appeal and this 143.1 appeal, which has been filed belatedly, when they will be clubbed together before CIT appeal, then CIT appeal can consider the aspect of condoning the delay. But the bottom line is that no demand should remain uncontested, because when will that demand partake? I mean, always say that the demand or the order or the adverse order or the adjustments or the additions or the disalliances, like the snakes, they sting you when you are fast asleep. Therefore, you file 154, you join assessment, you file appeal even 143.3, but then file appeal against 143.1. Yes, Somin.
Yes, sir. So, as discussed by you, sir, the various situations where demands can be raised, like in after assessments, notice of demand is issued, wherein a specified period, generally which is 30 days, is given to make the payment of the demand. Similarly, certain other situations which you have already discussed, where demands can be raised. So when the assessee is seized with any of these demands, so what are the actions, what are the precautions, what are the immediate actions for which the time limitations are there, and if not adhered to could cause serious prejudice to the interest of the assessee are there? And if that is not adhered to, what are the consequences which can be there, like interest under section 220, penalty 221, assessee in default, all these kind of consequences which can seriously prejudice the interest of the assessee. So sir, kindly enlighten us on what precautions, specifically with respect to time limitations, one should take with immediate basis, and how one should take care of the demands raised.
So the moment you are served with an assessment order and the demand is raised as a result of that assessment order, then first of all, find out the apparent errors and prepare a petition seeking rectification of such apparent errors. If apparent error, I need not to dwell at that, because those errors, not every error is an apparent error. As the word apparent is prefixed with the word error, that means that error has not only to be an error of fact or law, but then it has to be an apparent error of fact or law. Apparent means when there is no two views possible, when there can be no doubt, debate or controversy with respect to that error, when there can be no two conceivable viewpoints, when somebody after finding that error can say, oh, here is an error of fact or law. When a situation is not capable of being interpreted in more than one way. I can keep on, flagging and making arguments as to what is apparent, but then I think I believe that we all know what is that. So find out why I'm saying so. I'll come to that aspect why I'm saying so. I'm saying so because if you're pending 154 petition, then recovery cannot be, should not be, and ought not to be made till the disposal of your 154 petition. Therefore, this petition which you will file under section 154 may not be within 30 days, but then even thereafter will act as a defense mechanism against the coercion or the coercive modes of recovery. So first of all, you do this. Then second, you must move a petition, and there is a time limit, and the time limit is 30 days. As Somil has said, that normally time given for the payment of the demand is 30 days, but then it's not always 30 days. We should not remain under this kind of a misconception, because there is a proviso to section 220 subsection 1 which says that a time limit of lesser than 30 days can also be allowed by the assessing officer, but of course after obtaining the prior consent and approval from the joint commissioner, in order to protect the interest of revenue. So let us see from the demand note as to what is the time limit given. Within that time limit, you prepare your stay petition. And I tell you, when we prepare a stay petition or a prayer for we not being treated as an assessee in default, this is prepared in most casual manner. Kindly permit me to speak it in a very plain mode. Though somebody can say, sir, assessing officer himself has passed the assessment order, raised this demand, which we think, has erroneously been raised against us. Now, how is that, and what kind of a law is this, that the law asks us to approach that very assessing officer, and that too within 30 days, normally within 30 days. So how can there be a change of heart of that very assessing officer who not very long ago has been so unfair to me to approach him that he should stay the demand? Yes, very right. I was speaking last month as a chief guest before a regional conference or the Southern India Regional Council. There I raised some issues where the revisit of these provisions must be made by the government, and one of the provisions on which the revisit has to be made, was this one. Though one can say as a very laudable, kind of a thing, that the assessing officer now, is supposed to be fair, judicious, conscientious, reasonable, objective. But then, are they really? So, when as an assessing officer, by not exercising his discretion in accordance with law, he has happened to raise this much of demand, and then before that very assessing officer, the law asks me to file an application within 30 days, as if within this 30 days there will be some change of heart in him. Now it is a cardinal principle. मेरे मित्र law में बड़ा interest रखते हैं. DC Garg साहब is also there. I was looking. Alok Jain साहब is there. Pradeep Goyal ji from Barnala is there. So there is a cardinal principle of, and that principle is the natural justice, that nobody can be judge in his own cause. Now here is the assessing officer. He himself is a judge. He himself is an investigator. Now he himself will take a call in the matter of disposal of the stay petition, and the law expects him. I think this expectation is too high and too impractical, that he will exhibit some amount of objectivity, and that is why when you move stay petition, now he takes it in an equally casual manner, in which most of us do draft or stay petition. I'm not saying that if we draft stay petitions with much more seriousness, then he will revert back to the path of objectivity. That I'm not saying. He will remain what he is. But then we, as the practicing chartered accountant, must prepare the stay petition of our SSE within 30 days by making out as to why our case is strong on facts and in law, at least on prima facie basis. I always say, and I have taught to Somil also. I have taught to Ashwini also, when he used to deal tax matters with me, or in my office, my juniors, that you treat stay petition as if you are going to argue a case before CIT appeal. Maybe not in that comprehensive manner, but then take it like this: if tomorrow you have to go to the High Court against the refusal to grant stay by the assessing officer, then this stay petition must act as a launching pad for your writ petition, which you will file before the High Court. And the quality of your stay petition must be like this. And rather, I say this not only in respect of a stay petition. I say this for every petition. Even it may be an adjournment petition. Again, this adjournment petition is not the subject matter of today's discussion, but then I can say the way we draft stay petition, the adjournment petition, I mean, most of the times, I mean, we make it as if it is ritualistic. We will write anything or may not write anything except that you kindly adjourn it and then he will grant adjournment. After all, to grant or not to grant and how much to grant is also a quasi-judicial function. And in case, if he becomes unreasonable tomorrow, he doesn't grant you or he grants you with certain riders, then you may feel aggrieved against this decision. So why not to prepare your petition, all petitions, since we are discussing about the stay petition, as if in case it is not granted, our prayer is not granted, it is decided against us, I should be in a position based upon this petition to argue my matter before the High Court. That should be the ideal most situation. Therefore, make out in the stay petition as to the prima facie nature of case. And if certain evidences which you could not file in assessment, make them as a part of your stay petition, so that those evidences or pleadings which you made during assessment and the pleadings and the evidences which you file with the stay petitions, then put together, then the assessing officer, at least in law, I mean, should be in a position to decide and adjudicate on the merit of a stay petition. So, prima facie case, then the financial or liquidity position. Because this is also one of the factors which an assessing officer, at least in law, on facts may not be, but then on law, he is supposed and expected to see and then take an objective and a judicious call. So your financial or liquidity position. Now, what is the position when you say the liquidity is strained, when you say that there are this much of borrowing, then there must be evidence for it. Then if you can prepare a provisional balance sheet, the latest provisional balance sheet, then also that must be filed. Because again, as I said, even at the cost of repetition, I would say that your petition must be such so as to impress upon their lordships in case if you choose to go to the High Court tomorrow, and therefore based upon the averments, based upon the evidences in your stay petitions, you should be in a position to argue. That should be the quality, that should be the depth of your petition. Yes, he can grant installment, he can grant you further time, but then in case he grants installment and if the installment is not paid, then whatever installments he has given, irrespective of the installment which you have paid, now that offer or that order will be deemed to be withdrawn. So that aspect has, because it has been so provided under section 220 section itself. Now there is a board circular. Now board circular says that if you pay 20% of the tax demand, and of course tax is inclusive of interest. I mean, we cannot divorce tax and interest and say, sir, 20% of tax you take. No. And when the board says 20%, then 20%. So there may be that he may pass an order following the CBDT instructions. He can say, sir, I am bound, my hands are bound and tied by CBDT instructions. But then Supreme Court has said that 20% may have been given an administrative yardstick by the board, but then the stay to be granted or not to be granted, or to be granted with what conditions, is a quasi-judicial function. Of course, the circulars issued by the board are binding on the assessing officer, but then they are not binding on the courts. And therefore, you make out a case, if you can make, sir, even 20% is not required to be paid by me. It depends upon the facts, of course. But then what I am highlighting, what I am sharing with my friends is that your petition must deal with prima facie, must deal with your financial liquidity position, and then make out a case. Let him reject. And kindly remember, your 154 petition, if is pending, then till that he cannot make coercive recovery. And in case he makes, then that is liable to be frowned upon by the higher courts. In case your stay petition is pending, then also any coercive measures taken by the department is liable to be frowned upon. And there are plethoras of judicial decisions which say, though the assessing officers are known for flouting the judicial decisions, the kind of scant respect and regard is exhibited and shown at that level. I mean, much can be said about it. It's unfortunate, but then that is there because there is lack of accountability. Now, who can be held accountable? Now has been made faceless. Earlier, I mean, we could have pointed out that, I mean, such and such assessing officer is, I mean, is to be held as accountable, but now it may be difficult for us to, whereas section 143(3)(a) or 144(b) for that matter, they say that we have converted from physical assessment mode to the faceless assessment mode. I mean, for the sake of transparency, for the sake of accountability, for the sake of efficiency. I do not know whether these three elements were not required earlier. I mean, all of a sudden what has come that they are sought to be given is statutory recognition. But anyway, I mean, even if it has been given, is good. And the good things, even if coming late, I mean, they have to be held, I mean, with the most respect and humility, and we welcome it. But then that accountability, that efficiency, and the transparency must be shown by those who have to show at the ground level, and that is yet to be seen. That is yet to be shown, I can say. But then let us do our duty as the professional to make stay petitions in a most comprehensive manner. We should not feel that we are not paid for it. But once we, I mean, the bottom line should be, again, that may not be relevant, but then CA First is the organization, I mean, which is holding this webinar, and therefore I will be feeling in my duty that once you accept a brief, now whether fee or no fee, whether full fee or half fee, I mean, that should take a back seat. Profession is a matter of passion. I mean, that I would say, and then I will leave it at that stage. Yes, Somil.
So, sir, as you rightly mentioned, till now, conventional concept of assessment, physical assessments, wherein the very same assessing officer who used to raise the demand, as a matter of practice, we saw these stay petitions were being treated very casually. And those tax demands which were raised are vigorously followed. There are coercive actions which are taken against it, if not paid. But regarding this faceless assessment scheme, which has now come, and one of the reasons, one of the bullet reasons which came in the initial days when this scheme was launched was that in the old concept, the very same officer who had the tax targets to meet regarding the demands to be recovered, now this person is different and the person who has made the assessment is different. So the person who has made the assessment is somebody else who is faceless, whereas the stay petitions are to be moved to the jurisdictional assessing officer, since the record after the assessments are moved to the jurisdictional assessing officer. So to some extent, sir, on this note, we can expect that some fair, reasonable objectiveness may come in times to come in the new regime, when the same person who earlier had the target is no more in picture, and this person only has to adjudicate whether in the given circumstances stay should be granted or not, since he is not the person involved behind it.
I compliment you for your sense of optimism. And let us wish, let us pray that even if the assessment may have been made by the faceless assessing officer or some assessing officer who was sitting in Chennai, but after assessment, I mean, this matter has come to the jurisdictional assessing officer, and it is this jurisdictional assessing officer who will take a call. So whether there will be an amount of objectivity from the assessing officer in person or the jurisdictional assessing officer, this is good. He should show. Or I say that even if he makes assessment, then also, I mean, he should make an objective appraisal as to whether the stay should be granted or not. Because as an assessing officer, his job was somewhat different. But when it comes to the realization of the tax demand, and more particularly when entire tax demand is in dispute, then he should exhibit some amount of objectivity and fairness even in that situation. अभी आपके प्रोग्राम शुरू होने से पहले मतलब मुझे आश्चर्य होता है कि एक मेरे मित्र का फोन आया, चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट मित्र हैं, बड़ा अच्छी प्रैक्टिस है उनकी, कि 125 करोड़ रुपए की डिमांड निकाली, उसमें से 20% उन्होंने पे भी कर दी। आप देखिएगा, पुराने कोई मैटर्स उनके सीआईटी अपील में चल रहे थे, 100 करोड़ रिफंड था, वो रिफंड इस 125 करोड़ में एडजस्ट कर लिए। बोलते भैया हमको तो 20 करोड़ तो वो तो हमें वैसे लेना था और ये 100 करोड़ तुम्हारा रिफंड है, तो हम आपको क्यों दें, आपकी तो ऑलरेडी डिमांड है, लेके उन्होंने 100 करोड़ एडजस्ट कर ली। सो माय फ्रेंड वाज आस्किंग नाउ वेदर should we go in for a writ? Of course we must go. Now on the one hand the board says that till the disposal of a first appeal we'll insist only for 20%. Now merely because if there were certain refunds, and therefore would you appropriate the entire amount of refund even if the 20% I mean is already paid? So this high-handedness is not going to diminish, because that high-handedness perhaps is ingrained in our brain. Anyway, but then if one more remedy, which Somil, when earlier mentioned, I mean, which I left, that in case very high pitch assessment has been made, then there is a high pitch assessment committee. You must make a petitions to the high pitch assessment committee also, and bring out the arbitrariness, the height of assessment. It's not high pitch, it's the height of assessment. That day Somil was discussing with me, I mean, one assessment. And really when such kind of assessment orders come, I tell you, that erodes the very faith in the system. It is not only the one case, because that case acts as a catalyst to erode the faith. And the case was that in case of a charitable organization running a school having receipts of 11 crores, paying 60 or 65 lakhs as remuneration to the related parties, on which there was objection, sole objection. Okay, you disallow 65 lakhs. But then under which authority of which law on this earth, unless we are living in North Korea, where anything, I mean, is possible. Now you tax 11 crore, which was my gross receipt, as taxable income. Now, is it only high pitch? It is the height of the high pitch. Even if you want to assess not as a charitable organization, as a commercial organization, my expenditures, there is no concept of taxing the gross receipt. Only today, me and my partner Dr. Raj, we are writing nowadays a third book on Black Money Act. Now in Black Money Act there is section 5. Section 5 ये कहता है कि अनडिस्क्लोज्ड फॉरेन इनकम के अगेंस्ट में कोई एक्सपेंडिचर नहीं अलाउ होगा, कोई अलाउंस अलाउ नहीं होगा, कोई सेट ऑफ लॉस अलाउ नहीं होगा। तो अब हमने एक इशू बनाया कि क्या इसका मतलब कि जो ब्लैक मनी एक्ट है, क्या अनडिस्क्लोज्ड जो फॉरेन इनकम है उसको ग्रॉस बेसिस पे टैक्स करने का कुछ इनका इरादा है क्या? देन on first principles of law, then both of us agreed and then wrote ki what can be taxed even under the black money law, or for that matter any blackest money law, is the income. I mean, income means, the gross receipts minus expenditures in order to earn that income. So when these faceless assessing officers are making such kind of an assessment and a series of assessment, this one instance has just come in my mind. That entire receipt of 11 crore now has been brought to tax. Since we are denying you 11 and 12 benefit, you deny me 11 and 12. But then under which power, under which authority, under which provision of which law? You can choose to tax on 11 crore. So, such kind of cases, but then if you file even a petition, when I say petition smacks of some element of as if you are seeking mercy, though it is not mercy simpliciter, but then even if you are filing a petition which has an element of mercy, but then those who are responsible, they will feel, oh, you are lodging complaint against the assessing officer, against the department. Now, this is something which I have not been able to fathom, appreciate, understand. Yes.
So, sir, regarding the stay petition, the touchstone, the parameters to evaluate whether the petition is apt enough, at least to, in case the AO, which generally will reject the petition, to move towards the High Court. So, prima facie case has to be proved, and documentary evidences which already on record, or further evidences which can be brought on record, can be brought on record in the along with the stay petition. Together with that, sir, the financial position of the assessee, if it is not good, bank statement, provisional balance sheet can be
Yes.
filed. But sir, my question is here that, say, financial condition is sound, the assessee has balance in the bank. Sometimes there is balance because of the overdraft limit, which is itself a loan. Assessee should not be forced to further draw loans from the bank. Secondly, where the assessee is aware that in next couple of months, 3-4 months, I have these commitments, salaries, especially in the current pandemic situation, commitments of overheads, the revenues have gone down. So those commitments, despite there may be some amount in the bank. So that irreparable loss which would occur to the assessee if the demand is enforced, can that also be a ground if,
yes, very,
for the stay petition?
Yes, very good aspect which I forgot, that apart from prima facie case, apart from the strained financial and liquidity position, then this irreparability of loss which will happen in case the demand is enforced, now that should also be pleaded. And therefore all these parameters which Somil has just said, Somil, you have become more intelligent than your chacha. So all these things, now that should also be brought on record. And that balance of convenience, the irreparability of the loss, all these things should be brought on record in the stay petition. Yes.
Sir, connected to this, we see in every assessment in the first or second questionnaire, all right, give me your past assessment orders, and recurring additions are repeated year after year. And in earlier years, if the assessee has been able to get those additions deleted from first step authority, second authority, so to some extent, if the facts are same, these are covered cases, although department may be litigating them in the higher forums. So with respect to these such covered matters where year after year assessee has been able to win these matters, so is there any something additional in the CBDT guidelines also or anywhere in instructions that at least in such matters where SSC has been able to prove that itself is a evidence that SSC has good prima facie case, some relaxation is available?
Yes, yes. In one of the circulars, the board has said that the demands qua the issues which have been decided in favor of the taxpayer, that may not be enforced. But then the wordings, I mean, which is used by the board, that may not be. And the assessing officer says, may not be, it is in my discretion. I mean, though that discretion is a judicial discretion, but then again, I mean, you will have to knock at the door of even the principal commissioner. And most of the times, I would say that even at that level, also the SSCs are not hard. Ultimately, this has been my experience of 38 years in different capacities. I have practiced 16 years as chartered accountant. 20 years I am practicing as a lawyer. 1 year I myself have been the judge. And for almost, I mean, 40 years I have been as an SSC. Now I can say that the relief SSC gets at the appellate level, by and large. So on the administrative front, I remember विजय जी, हमारे यहाँ पर गुलाटी साहब थे, जेपी गुलाटी साहब. One day he came to me, और वो डिपार्टमेंट से ही रिटायर हुए थे, कि राकेश, I want to file a writ petition before the Delhi High Court against the action of the department not parting with me, not parting to me the scrutiny guidelines. They say we will not disclose. You will manipulate your return on that basis. And kindly see, information officer rejected his petition. Then the appellate authority rejected the petition. Then state commission, and then CPI, and then national commission. Now against that national commission's order, we went to High Court. I went to High Court. And he wanted to give me fee. मैंने कहा, sir, your blessings are my fee. and I tell you, we won that writ petitions. Justice Shakdar, my Lord Justice Shakdar, he himself is chartered accountant. Now he appreciated this issue. You know, how can the scrutiny guidelines based upon which a person's case is to be selected in scrutiny, now how can that be, I mean, such kind of a treasure? And fortunately, then the government of India, Union of India, accepted that decision. And in all scrutiny guidelines now, there is one bold this thing, that these guidelines are being published in view of the Delhi High Court's decision in the case of Joginder Pal Gulati in civil writ petition number 7. So हम लोगों को तो ऐसी चीज जो हमारा हक है उसको मांगने के लिए भी ताले तोड़ के लाने पड़ते हैं. अब हर एक व्यक्ति, उनमें तो जीवट था, वो बड़े ही जीवट वाले थे. जैसे आनंद प्रकाश जी थे, वो जीवट वाले थे. they were men of principle. तो वो लड़ गए, or even he was prepared to spend even cost from his pocket, and for this public welfare cause, and particularly he himself was from the department. तो एसएससी की कहां इतनी बिसात होती है, कहां एसएससी को फिर ये देखना पड़ता है कि मेरे सेक्शन से कहीं lest I should be offending somebody. So stay petition disposal though is a quasi judicial function, but then it is discharged by the public officers as if some khairat is being doled out, some ehsan is being done. That is unfortunate part. So इसीलिए मैं हमेशा ये कहता हूं कि आप जब क्वांटम अपील के अगेंस्ट में या पेनल्टी की अपील के अगेंस्ट में जब अपील करते हैं फर्स्ट अपीलेट अथॉरिटी को, तो असेसिंग ऑफिसर को तो आप मूव करते ही हैं अपनी स्टे पिटीशन. आप एक स्टे पिटीशन कमिश्नर अपील को भी डाल दीजिए, ठीक है. और वही स्टे पिटीशन जो आपने असेसिंग ऑफिसर के लिए बड़ी विस्तृत तरीके से जो निर्मित की है, बनाई है, वही उसके अधिकारी का नाम चेंज करते हुए कि कमिश्नर अपील थ्रू नेशनल फेसलेस अपीलेट सेंटर, दैट यू मस्ट फाइल देयर आल्सो. यस सोमेन.
Sir, first, my question is threefold. First thing is that generally when the demand is raised by way of an assessment order and notice of demand, in view of the CBDT guidelines, it is felt that 20% demand has to be deposited. But what I recall, there was this Honorable Supreme Court in LG Electronics categorically held that it is an administrative guideline and the assessing officer has the discretion to grant stay even below 20% also. So whether the assessee pleading the circumstances of its case can request for that demand may be given at a lower amount, stay may be given at a lower amount, and further request for installment. That is the first question. Secondly, as you just mentioned, sir, the appellate authority. Ultimately, of all this injustice that has been done, appellate mechanism is the route which one has to take. So whether the first appellate authority, though regarding income tax appellate tribunal being the second appellate authority, there is a specific provision in 254 that they have the power to grant stay, which again has been interfered by the legislature by bringing the new proviso that 20% demand at least should be there, which is itself a question. But regarding the first appellate authority, there is no specific provision. Now the question arises that the appellate authority, while exercising the jurisdiction of a disposal of appeal, whether they have the incidental power, whether this power to grant stay is incidental to their function or not.
Yes. So when I said that the first appellate authority, I mean, should also be moved with the petition to grant a stay, then I was conscious about this fact that there is no explicit statutory provision under the Income Tax Act which grants power to the commissioner to grant a stay. I remember I argued one matter before Honorable Allahabad High Court, which ultimately has been approved by Supreme Court, Oxford Academy. Commissioner in 2004 or prior to 2004 did not have any power to cancel registration of the trust. But in our case, based on survey, registration was cancelled. We filed writ against that order before Allahabad High Court. The argument, I mean, which was made and which ultimately, I mean, found approval from their lordships was that unless there is a specific authority granted to a statutory authority under a particular statute, till that authority cannot be arrogated, cannot be assumed by that authority. I remember the senior standing counsel, Mr. D.D. Chopra, as he then was, I mean, he argued, very tooth and nail argued, sir, power to grant registration is there with commissioner, and power to grant registration includes power to cancel also. Even if the legislature has not been explicitly given this power to cancel, but then this power to cancel should be read into his power to grant. Very good argument. But then somehow he did not find favor from the lordships. I'm not saying that it did not find favor from the lordships because of me. On the lighter side, I can say. But then anyway, now here also there is no explicit power vested in the first appellate authority, which can throw light as to whether at all he has got any power to adjudicate on his stay. Now this issue now is a judge-made law, and the judge-made law is in the case of Muhammad Kuni 71 ITR. There also this issue arose. The Supreme Court said that power to dispose appeal is there, and power to dispose appeal which is there with the appellate authority includes all such incidental and ancillary powers which are necessary to make that dominant power effective and efficacious. Therefore, Supreme Court said that this power to grant or not to grant stay is subservient to that main power of disposal of appeal, and therefore even if this power is not there, but then this power being incidental and ancillary to that main power will have to be attributed, will have to be conceded to the appellate authority. So that is why I said that you must file stay petitions to the CIT appeal. But then I tell you, in my 38 years of the professional standing, I have not seen very many commissioners appeal exercising this power. Let them not exercise, let them not. But then you have got remedy by way of filing a writ before the High Court against the inaction of the CIT appeal. I remember in one of the case, we filed stay petitions before the Commissioner appeal, and Commissioner appeal, as usual, would sit over it, would not dispose it of. Here, assessing officer was after our blood. Therefore, we knocked at the door of High Court. And what was the relief which we sought from the High Court? This is unfortunate. When we had to go to the High Court, praying to the High Court to give direction to a statutory authority to do something which that authority is obliged to do under the law. This is, ये हिंदुस्तान में होता है कि statutory authority जो किसी कार्य को करने के लिए बाध्य है विधान में, और अपनी बाध्यता को नजरअंदाज करते हुए हमको हाई कोर्ट से ये आदेश लाना पड़ता है कि उस अधिकारी से कहें कि भाई वो विधान में प्रदत्त अपने दायित्वों का निर्वहन करे। ये इससे बड़ी एक दुर्भाग्यपूर्ण स्थिति नहीं हो सकती है, पर है, कितनी बार होता है कि we go to the High Court praying their lordships to kindly direction, which is technically called mandamus, direction to that statutory authority to do. I can understand if we go to the High Court in a writ of certiorari or in a writ of prohibition asking that authority not to act. I can understand. But then asking an authority to act, which he otherwise is duty bound to act under the law. But that time, these are the costs of our existence. So CIT appeal has got power. It is judge-made law, but then the judge-made law has got also very solid reasoning basis, rational justification and jurisprudence. And that jurisprudence is flowing, even if much water has flown in Ganges, but the jurisprudence is flowing from Muhammad Kuni's decision in 71 ITR. Yes.
So, sir, assessment has been made, stay petition has been filed to the assessing officer. He rejected, and 20% demand has been deposited, and the matter is before CIT appeal. Now, subsequently, say CIT appeal confirms the addition.
Yes.
Now, subsequent to that, obviously, the tax department, the appeal has to go to tribunal. But while that appeal goes to tribunal, the department, the assessing officer will rigorously follow up for the balance demand. So, what action can the assessee take regarding this while the appeal is pending before honorable tribunal?
Yes. So मैं पहले एक बात कहना भूल गया था, जो बड़ी जरूरी बात है कि केवल उसी एपलेट अथॉरिटी को स्टे में इंडल्ज होने का अधिकार है जिसके की पास अपील पेंडिंग है। तो यदि सीआईटी अपील के पास अपील पेंडिंग है तो सीआईटी अपील को ही स्टे मूव की जाएगी और इसको स्टे डिस्पोजल करने का अधिकार है। हम ये नहीं है कि हम ट्राइब्यूनल के पास चले जाएं, बिकॉज ट्राइब्यूनल इज नॉट सीज्ड विद अपील. So the tribunal will have power to grant stay only when the tribunal is seized with pending appeal. So since this power to grant stay springs from the power to dispose appeal, therefore the pendency of appeal is a sine qua non, is a condition precedent before that power of stay can be exercised. हाँ, एक चीज और मैं इंसिडेंटली बतला दूं कि यदि सीआईटी अपील ने सपोज आपकी स्टे पे ऑर्डर पास करके रिजेक्ट कर दिया तो उसकी अपील ट्राइब्यूनल में नहीं जाएगी, बिकॉज ट्राइब्यूनल में कौन सी अपील जाती हैं, ये सेक्शन 253 ऑफ द इनकम टैक्स एक्ट, एंड इट इज एन इंटरलोकुटरी ऑर्डर, दिस इज एन इंटरिम ऑर्डर. इस ऑर्डर के अगेंस्ट अपील ट्राइब्यूनल नहीं जाएगी. सो इसके अगेंस्ट यदि कोई रेमेडी है, सीआईटी अपील के सामने आपने स्टे मूव किया और उसने उसको आपकी रिजेक्ट किया, या जो भी ऑर्डर पास किया जिससे कि आप संतुष्ट नहीं हैं, उसमें कुछ ऐसी शर्तें CITP ने लगा दी जिनसे कि आप इत्तेफाक नहीं रखते हैं, then you have got remedy by way of a writ before the High Court of your judicature. So tribe, हाँ, जैसा सोमिल ने कहा कि once CIT appeal, now he has disposed of appeal and you have filed appeal before the tribunal, therefore the jurisdiction to grant stay qua that appeal now can be assumed by the tribunal, and therefore मैं हमेशा कहता हूं कि आप ट्राइब्यूनल में अपील फाइल करिए और ट्राइब्यूनल में स्टे पिटीशन भी फाइल करिए। वहां पर स्टे पिटीशन फाइल करने के लिए पर्टिकुलर फॉर्मेट तो नहीं है, हाँ एक फॉर्मेट है, रूल 35A ऑफ द एपेलेट ट्राइब्यूनल रूल्स है, आप उसमें पर्टिकुलर्स रखिएगा और ग्राउंड्स ऑफ स्टे बनाइएगा। और ग्राउंड्स ऑफ स्टे भी फिर, बिकॉज ट्राइब्यूनल में स्टे पिटीशन पर बहस होगी, स्टे पिटीशन पे बहस होती है, और ट्राइब्यूनल by and large, if there is a justice in this country, it is at that level and you will get it. तो ट्राइब्यूनल जब अपील उसके पास होगी तो ट्राइब्यूनल को स्टे देने या ना देने का अधिकार है। आप मांगेंगे तो उस पर सुनवाई होगी, सुनवाई होगी तो वही 4 तत्व होंगे, प्राइमा फेसाई केस, लिक्विडिटी, फाइनेंशियल पोजीशंस, बैलेंस ऑफ कन्वीनियंस एंड इर्रिपेरेबिलिटी ऑफ इर्रिपेरेबल लॉस। सो इस चारों पर वहां पर बहस होती है। उसके बाद ट्राइब्यूनल एक जुडिशियल कॉल लेके बताती है कि भाई आपको इतना टैक्स एडवांस में, आपको इंटरलोकुटरी या इंटरिम इतना टैक्स पे करिएगा, हम आपको स्टे ग्रांट करते हैं। तो ये एक तरीका है जब ट्राइब्यूनल में अपील पेंडिंग हो। सोमिल,
So sir, when the stay is not granted by the assessing officer, we can move application to the commissioner. Then we can move application to the high-pitched committee. We also have an option to move an application to the appellate authority before whom the appeal is seized. If the stay is not granted, obviously the stage up to which honorable tribunal comes in would be at least 4 or 5 years down the line. So till that stage, till the time the appeal is pending before the CITP, the stay is not granted, what remedy is available?
Yes, this is very good
After
question.
exhausting all these
Yes,
remedies.
तो देखिए, जो when you will file stay petition before assessing officer, now he passes some order, then you can file even an administrative petitions before his principal commissioner. If principal commissioner also passes some order, then you can file a writ petitions against that order before High Court, because whenever there is no appeal prescribed against any order, because not all orders are appealable. Now stay order passed by assessing officer, or for that matter order on stay petitions passed by principal commissioner, they are not appealable. So when something is not appealable, then the remedy provided by our constitution, which I often call is that a Jahangir Nyaya, Traimam. So that Jahangir Nyaya is by way of writ petitions under Article 226 of the Constitution, then you go. So in all such cases where there are high demands, I mean the possibility of exploring going to the writ now can be explored. Now पंजाब, चूंकि फरीदाबाद हरियाणा jurisdiction में दिक्कत होती है, हमको पंजाब चंडीगढ़ जाना होता है, दिल्ली में it is somewhat easier, but if it is a case of UP, and इस यूपी में भी हम देखते हैं लखनऊ बेंचेस ऑफ हाई कोर्ट है या इलाहाबाद बेंचेस ऑफ हाई कोर्ट है, तो बहुत सारे फैक्टर्स, कॉस्ट कंसीडरेशंस, इनको ध्यान में रख के हमें देखना पड़ता है, लेकिन कई बार जाना पड़ता है when the state commits some excesses, जहां जो राज्य सत्ता है अति करती है और उस अति के विपक्ष में कोई अपील नहीं है, तो जहां पुकार है जिसको कि हम रिट बोलते हैं, तो वो है। अब उसके लिए जो भी है तो वो करना होगा, करना चाहिए, करना पड़ेगा। यस, एक चीज और मैं बता रहा था, मैं भूल गया, अब ऑलरेडी 1 घंटा हुआ है, लोगों के प्रश्न भी होंगे। एक और सेक्शन है जिस पर कि मैं अपने मित्रों का ध्यान आकृष्ट करना चाहूंगा, और वो आयकर अधिनियम की धारा 179 which is applicable in case of a company in which public is not substantially interested, though the heading of the section says that it's private company. But at least it is applicable in case of closely held company. Now it says that if the recovery cannot be made from the company, then any person who was director, kindly mind this is very dangerous, and I have seen the fury of this section. इस सेक्शन की फेरोशियसनेस, इस सेक्शन की गंभीरता, घातकता मैंने देखी है अपने एसएससीज के केस में. सो इफ द डिमांड कैन नॉट बी रिकवर्ड from the company, then any person who was director at any point of time in that year to which the demand relates, previous year to which the demand relates, now is jointly and severally liable for the payment of the demand, and the assessing officer can recover it. Or once an order is passed under section 179, it is not appealable. Then the only course open to you is to file writ before the High Court. अच्छा, उसमें मैं अपने मित्रों का मैं देखता हूं, सेक्शन 179 का नोटिस आया और उसका जो जवाब दिया जाता है, अक्सर मैं घर में बात कर रहा हूं, इसलिए मैं इतनी बेबाकी से बात कर रहा हूं कि उसका जवाब भी बड़ी कैजुअल तरीके से दिया जाता है. भाई कोई भी जवाब, कोई भी पिटीशन आपको इस तरह से बनानी चाहिए हर बार. बॉटम लाइन ये है कि यदि हमारी बात नहीं मानी गई तो हमको हाई कोर्ट जाना है. हाई कोर्ट में नई चीज थोड़ी ले लोगे, जो आपने नीचे प्लीड किया वही लोगे. तो 179 के नोटिस के परस्यूएंस में जो रिप्लाई आप ड्राफ्ट करें या ड्राफ्ट करते हैं, दैट मस्ट बी वेरी कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव एनफ, covering on all those issues which, if it decided against you by him, then can be agitated before the High Court. So this aspect has to be taken care of. Then penalty for जो coercion के तरीके हैं, बैंक अकाउंट अटैच कर लेते हैं, बैंक अकाउंट से पेमेंट निकाल लेंगे, then 221 की पेनल्टी लगा सकते हैं. Then आपको रिकवरी, आपके जो डेटर्स हैं उनको अटैच करके बोल सकते हैं भाई पेमेंट हमें करिएगा. आपकी कोई प्रॉपर्टीज है, रेंटल इनकम आ रही है, तो कह सकते हैं टेनेंट से भाई आप किराया हमें दीजिए, ऑफ कोर्स बाय इशूइंग नोटिस. देन इफ a person is a salaried employee, his salary can be attached. Now that is a different matter, that under CPC only attachment can be made not beyond 1/3 of the total salary. So इस तरह से रिकवरी के कोएर्सिव मेजर्स हैं. लेकिन सरकार के पार्ट पे एक इस तरह की स्टडी की आवश्यकता है कि जिन जिन केसेस में कोएर्शन करके रिकवरी की, बाद में अपील में उनका क्या हश्र हुआ, और इन रिट्रोस्पेक्ट ये एक्सरसाइज होनी चाहिए कि हमने इतने केसेस में कोएर्सिव मोड्स से रिकवरी की जो कि बाद में हमको उनके अपील जीतने पर हमको रिफंड करना पड़ा. तो एक इसके बेसिस पर स्टडी के बाद एप्रोप्रिएट इंस्ट्रक्शंस शुड बी इशूड. ये होना चाहिए, ये मेरा ऐसा मानना है, क्योंकि मेरा अपना अनुभव है कि जहां जहां इस तरह से कोएर्सिव करके रिकवरी कर ली गई, वो फर्स्ट अपील में नहीं तो सेकंड अपील में जीतने के बाद उसमें से सब्सटेंशियल अमाउंट डिपार्टमेंट को रिफंड करना पड़ा. लेकिन आपने वो किसी का अकाउंट अटैच करके जो मैसेज दिया या उसकी सोशल रेपुटेशन या इकोनॉमिक रेपुटेशन को डेंट किया, उसका कौन हर्जाना भरेगा? उसके लिए हमारे यहाँ जो लॉ है वो ये है कि यू हैव टू प्रूव मेला फाइडी ऑन द पार्ट ऑफ ए पब्लिक ऑफिसर, बिकॉज presumption under the law is that all public officers act in a bona fide manner, and in case you want to say that he has not acted bona fide, he has acted mala fide, then the burden is on the person, meaning thereby on you, to prove that his action was mala fide. But then to prove mala fide is a hell of a job, is a hell of a task. I mean, it is a Herculean task. And then the entire system stands up against you. So, I mean, it's not one obstacle. There are bundle of obstacles. So, Somil, can we take questions now? Vijayji, can we take questions now? Or, I mean, though he can keep on asking questions, then I'll keep on answering. But I think the basic as to how one should deal, I mean, with this demand position and what are the remedies, I mean, we have captured. May not be in that comprehensive manner, but then I think the purpose is served. So if there are questions from our friends, I think we would be pleased to take them.
ये सोमिल जी चैट बॉक्स से आप क्वेश्चंस ले सकते हैं, बेटर रहेगा बीच बीच में जो भी हमारे
Sir, I could see a couple of questions in the chat
Yes.
box. Sir, if you want, I can read them.
Yes, please.
yes सोमिल जी.
It is from Alok sir. In case the time limit for appeal has lapsed, instead of filing delayed appeal to be condoned, is it not better to file rectification application and once it is rejected, then file an appeal?
I think Alok ji, you did not either listen me properly when I dealt this issue, or you were not there. Now, even if I ask a question, now even if you have filed a rectification petition in time, okay, and you don't file appeal, you wait this application to be disposed of, and this application is also disposed of against you. So an order under section 154 is passed against you. I am assuming, in order to give answer to you, I am assuming, I mean, the worst. So now against this rejection under 154, now what can be your ground? Sir, assessing officer has erred in not rectifying the apparent error. Now CIT appeal would say this may be an error, but then it calls for debate, doubt and controversy. It calls for arguments for or against. Therefore, it can be anything, but then cannot be an apparent error. Now you will be thrown out. So you want to restrict your defense? I mean, let us, sometimes I say that we chartered accountants, I mean, must start, I mean, seeing the things from a lawyer's point of view also. When we represent the cases of our clients in the court or before the quasi-judicial authorities, I mean, our role, we have to stand even beyond our position as a chartered accountant. So, are we or do we believe in restricting our defense? If you feel so, then you do it. And if I have got several weapons, why should I not throw all of them? Like in the facts which you have given, I'll advise you, you file appeal, you file 154. How does it militate against your interest? Is it some expensive proposition? I mean, what kind of the things we talk? I mean, I am at loss to understand sometimes the approach of ours. I am one of you. Yes.
Sir, Manish Kuelji's question is, if after 143(1) order, 8 years have passed, and now demand is under 220 with tax recovery officer, what is the remedy where assessee is genuine?
Now, how can you say genuine? Now, Manish, now law comes to help them who are willing to help themselves. Now, if a person has remained non-indulgent, lax, for 8 long years, then why should any indulgence be shown by the law? You have allowed that order to attain finality against you. Now, who is to be blamed? Who is to be blamed? Now, if your case is this, that you were never served about this, and now you have been made aware, and therefore you can seek condonation of delay. I tell you, I got condonation of delay in one case from the tribunal, I think for several years, and that case is reported, All India Teachers, Primary Teachers Association. So if this is your case, that you were not aware, you were not made aware, you were never put on notice, you were never served a copy, and therefore there could never be an occasion for you to show your diligence. and therefore you did not know any adverse order having been passed against you, then you can file appeal and then seek condonation of delay. But then if you were put on notice, you were aware, you were served, and yet you chose, you means your SSE chose to remain non-indulgent and sleeping over his right for 8 long years. I mean, then जब कोई व्यक्ति स्वयं सहायता करने के लिए, अपनी सहायता करने के लिए जब वो तत्पर नहीं है, तो फिर कानून को भी क्या जरूरत पड़ी है? Yes.
The next question from Prakash ji is that whether stay can be asked in the appeal as a ground of appeal.
No. There is a separate cause of action. No. How can? Because you will file petition first of all before assessing officer. He will pass a quasi-judicial order qua that stay petition, and then whatever remedy we have just discussed is and will ooze out and will emanate, will flow from that order. Yes.
Sir, Prerit ji's question, sir, the computation of demand as per demand computation sheet is not in agreement with the order passed under 143(3) under faceless assessment remedies.
So, देखिए, सबसे पहले जो 30 दिन के अंदर आपने करनी है, एक तो अपील करनी है, 30 दिन के अंदर आपको स्टे फाइल करना है, उसमें लीजिए आप, फिर 154 फाइल करिए। इतने सारे आपके पास रेमेडी हैं, जो समयबद्ध, जो तय सीमा में होनी है, उसको तो आपको करना होगा। और जैसा कि आप जब स्टे पिटीशन बनाएंगे तो उसमें एक ग्राउंड आप ये बनाएंगे कि साहब ये क्या गल्लूगारा किया हुआ है? तो जब आप करेंगे तो वो डिसाइड करेगा असेसिंग ऑफिसर। कैसे करेगा वो तो हमको मालूम है, लेकिन कानून की भी देखने की एक नजर होती है। यस।
Sir, just to add one thing, in this computation, generally we have seen that this question is asked. One, I would also advise to check 143(1).
Yes, सोमिल ने नब्ज पकड़ ली है, क्योंकि बहुत सारे केसेस में ये देखा गया है कि 143(1) में कोई एडजस्टमेंट हो गई थी, डिमांड वहां रेज हो गई थी। अब यहां पर जब डिमांड नोटिस आया तो कोई एडिशन नहीं है, और आप समझे बैठे, लेकिन डिमांड तो 143(1) से रेज हो गई है, ठीक है ना? तो इसलिए जो ये कंप्यूटेशन ऑफ डिमांड की बात में जो इनकंसिस्टेंसी है, काइंडली एक्सप्लोर कि उसकी वजह से तो नहीं है। प्रेरित तो अपना बच्चा है, आगरा से बोल रहा है।
सचिन जी,
नमस्कार।
हाँ जी। So next question from Sachin ji. Sir, AO passed order under 143(3) on 22nd April 21. We have filed appeal within 30 days, but not filed stay petition within 30 days because of lockdown. Can it be filed within jurisdiction AO now?
You must file. And when assessing officer seeks to deny or dismiss on this ground that you have come belatedly, then no law can be that unreasonable. No judicial authority can afford to be that unreasonable. That there is a lockdown, we don't have access to files, and yet he wants to say, if at all he says, though he would not say, I would say, though he would not say, but then if at all he says, then he would be saying, with utmost respect, I must say, I mean, grossly unjustifiable. Yes.
Yes, sir. Joginder ji's question, TDS deduction not reflected in 26 AS. Demand raised and recovered from subsequent year refund. 26 AS rectified later, but department is rejecting 154 application. What to do? Sir, probably what I understand is that the TDS which they claimed in their return, since it was not reflected in 26 AS at that point of time, that claim was rejected, and demand was raised and recovered from refunds of subsequent year were adjusted. Now subsequently 26 AS has been rectified, but department is rejecting 154 application for that. Now what to do?
So you tell.
So in my mind, against this 154 appeal has to be filed.
Yes.
And if still it persists, then the next remedy is going to the High Court for with writ.
Yes.
But
then once you file appeal, then how can you go to High Court against that very relief?
Yeah, appeal is a very limited area. If subsequently even appeal does not serve the purpose, or these are two alternative remedies, if the amount is way huge and demand is high, then obviously High Court route also can be explored for that matter.
ओके यस, तो ये कितने बजे की क्वेरी पढ़ रहे हो तुम?
Sir, I am reading 733.
नहीं, उससे पहले 629 पे जितेंद्र ने पूछा है, जितेंद्र जिंदल होंगे ये हमारे फरीदाबाद वाले मित्र, वेदर ऑफिस मेमोरेंडम 96 by informal consultative committee hold good over CVDD instructions. Now everything now has been subsumed by board circular dated 29th of February 2016, which was later on modified. So all those CVDT instructions 96 that CD Deshmukh, the then finance minister, spoke on the floor of the parliament. Now सारी चीजें खत्म है वो, ठीक है?
Sir, Ashwini Relanji, in this pandemic where Apex Court has generally extended the limitation period, can we use this as the pretext for seeking condonation?
Yes, definitely. But you have to explain each day's delay. So far as this pandemic covered period is concerned, I can understand. But then if that delay is for period anterior to this pandemic, I mean, then you'll have to find out, something. So, pandemic, each day's delay, in case that the law is very clear. Katiji's decision, Supreme Court in condonation. So each day's delay has to be explained. So, if यदि आपका cause of action ही pandemic के दौरान हुआ, तो naturally you can make out a case. ये सब because of pandemic. But then यदि वो पुराना है, जैसा एक क्वेश्चन में पूछा था 8 साल वाला, 8 साल से तो पेंडेमिक नहीं है, ठीक है ना? तो इस बात को ध्यान रखना, इस आधारभूत सिद्धांत का स्मरण रखना है कि हमको प्रत्येक दिन की देरी को हमको बताना है, उसके पीछे क्या कारण है. Yes.
Arpit Goyalji is asking, what are the remedies available against demand under section 220 if the tax demand originally was a matter of litigation, but now demand has attained finality and is correct? What remedies do we have against such demand under section 220?
220 के इंटरेस्ट के अगेंस्ट तो वेवर की ही पॉसिबिलिटी है. अदरवाइज तो देखो भाई, इंटरेस्ट जो होता है, मैं हमेशा कहता हूं, इज लाइक ए बछड़ा ऑफ ए गाय. सो इफ देयर इज अ टैक्स, देन द इंटरेस्ट हैज टू फॉलो, ठीक है? इन रिस्पेक्ट ऑफ सर्टेन इंटरेस्ट देयर इज अ पावर ऑफ वेवर. सो काइंडली एक्सप्लोर दैट पावर, फाइंड आउट, I mean, where is that power seeking the waiver of interest. Only that is the remedy, otherwise there is no other remedy, unless of course that interest itself has been calculated wrongly, patently wrongly, and in that situation then 154 may lie against that order. But I am taking that, as you said, that demand was correct, interest was correct, then in that situation only the waiver kind of a thing can be explored.
Sir, Prakash ji, whether on account Supreme Court order of suo motu 3 of 2020 stay can be asked after filing of appeal?
Yes, because these are very difficult, challenging times, as Vijay ji also said. और विजय जी ने एक बहुत अच्छा अमिताभ बच्चन की कविता लगाई, और इस कविता के नाम पर मुझे ध्यान आ गया कि ये मेरा जो कवित्व है वो भी इस लॉकडाउन में काफी मुखर और प्रखर हो गया है. मैंने आज ही एक कविता लिखी है. मैं कई बार मैं सोचता हूँ कि कहाँ कविता, और कविता भी जो मैं लिखता हूँ उसके बड़े पौराणिक प्रसंग हैं. वो प्रसंग चाहे मैंने अपने बाल्यकाल में, बचपन में पढ़े हैं, और फिर ब्लैक मनी लॉ, फिर ये आर्टिकल, फिर ये बिल्कुल डाइवर्स वो है. तो कल मुझे हमारे जो सिकंदर तलवार साहब होते थे फरीदाबाद में, उनका कल मेरे पास मैसेज आया कि यार तेरा स्विच ओवर टाइम बड़ा जबरदस्त है, कि अभी तू ये कर रहा है, फिर तू एकदम ये करने लगता है, जो उनमें कोई तारतम्य या कोई लिंक नहीं होता. तो अब ये ईश्वर प्रदत्त मुझे आशीर्वाद है, तो मैं कर लेता हूँ. तो अब पेंडेमिक सिचुएशन में ये स्थितियां हैं, डिफिकल्ट टाइम्स हैं, चैलेंजिंग टाइम्स रहे हैं. तो इसमें लिमिटेशंस को लेकर स्टैट्यूटरी अथॉरिटी और कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल अथॉरिटीज वो इतने फ्रिजिड नहीं है, इतने रिजिड नहीं है. तो बट देन यू हैव टू मेक आउट ए केस. यस
Last query from Kori ji. There is a 143.1a demand. Thereafter, there is a 143.3 nil demand order. What will be the fate of 143.1a demand?
कोरी साहब, जो सामने दिखलाई दे रहा है वो सच नहीं है। वो सच सिर्फ इतना है कि 143.3 के ऑर्डर से कोई डिमांड नहीं निकली है, लेकिन उस पर्दे के पीछे क्या है? पर्दे के पीछे 143.1 की डिमांड है जो ऑलरेडी रेज हो चुकी है, और जो आपके मुंह को ताक रही है वो ड्यू है, तो वो पे करनी पड़ेगी जब तक कि आप उस डिमांड की खत्म करने के लिए उपयुक्त कदम नहीं उठाते हैं। यस
Yes, sir. Recently, another chat box question. CIT appeal order are.
विनोद मित्तल जी का भी है।
हाँ जी।
CIT appeal order are not passed from the long time. What are the reasons for so late? पेंडेमिक वो सभी के लिए है, पेंडेमिक नंबर 1। दूसरा, अभी सरकार ने जो स्कीम निकाली हुई थी विवाद से विश्वास, अब विवाद से विश्वास कुछ लोगों ने फाइल किया है, उसमें टैक्स पे करने की भी शायद तारीख 30 जून तक बढ़ा दी गई है, तो इसलिए 30 जून तक वो टैक्स पे होगा। टैक्स पे होने के बाद वो अपील विड्रॉ होंगी। तो इन सबको ध्यान में रखते हुए मुझे ऐसा लगता है अपार्ट फ्रॉम पेंडेमिक ये रीजन है जिसकी वजह से CIT अपील भी ऑर्डर पास नहीं कर रहे हैं।
सर हैंड रेस थे, DC गर्ग सर का था, पंकज सर का है, तो if host can unmute them and we can ask the query.
तो चैट के सारे हो गए।
Yes sir, chat is complete.
DC गर्ग साहब कहाँ हैं? हमारे सामने हैं हमारे। हाँ
गोपाल
नमस्कार
जी।
भाई, DC गर्ग साहब को जरा वो करें।
हाँ गोपाल जी जरा अनम्यूट करिए।
1 मिनट।
Thank you. Namaskar, bhai sahab.
हाँ,
Sir, I do have a humble question, maybe silly question.
अरे
But
नहीं
मैं-
नहीं, कुछ नहीं, अरे गर्ग साहब कमाल।
मैं भी सुन रहा था आपको, मैं तो आपका फैन हूँ सर। तो irreparable loss, balance of convenience and prima facie case, ये सब मैं सुन रहा था। And financial position, difficult financial position. Sir, my question is this: कि even if I am having a sound financial position and the AO has done injustice with me, then why I am bound to pay 20% or 50% or so? See, financial position should not be criteria. Of course, difficult financial position could be a criteria, but sir, can you throw some light on this?
देखिए,
But to meet out the justice, to meet out the justice, financial position, my better financial position should not be. Yes, sir.
There is quite weight and substance in what you said.
Yes, sir.
बट ये सारे तत्व हैं, इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि ये ही होगा तो ही होगा, ठीक है ना? तो जो अथॉरिटी डिसीजन लेगी वो इस बात का संज्ञान लेगी कि इस केस में जब प्राइमा फेसाई व्यू ही इतना जबरदस्त है, हालांकि आप ये तो भूल जाओ गर्ग साहब की असेसिंग ऑफिसर आपको मानेगा, लेकिन हाँ जो हायर अथॉरिटीज है वो इस बात को देखती हैं, और कोर्ट ने ऐसा कहा हुआ है। इवन अभी जब हम ट्राइब्यूनल में स्टे लेने जाते हैं, डिपार्टमेंट कहता था 25% क्यों जमा कराएं? मियरली बिकॉज आई कैन पे डजंट मीन कि दैट आई मस्ट पे, इवन इफ आई हैव गॉट द फुल प्रूफ केस एज क्लियर एज द डे लाइट, ठीक है ना? तो ऐसी बात नहीं है, जो हायर अथॉरिटी है ना वो उसका संज्ञान लेती है, लेकिन आपको नीचे से केस बनाना पड़ेगा, और यदि आप समझते हैं कि आपकी फाइनेंशियल पोजीशन ठीक है तो आप उसको मत लिखिएगा, ठीक है ना?
ठीक है।
सर पंकज सर का हैंड रेज है।
पंकज खनेजा सर का?
हाँ जी, पंकज।
कहाँ से? पहले तो ये बताएं सर, DC गर्ग साहब को तो हम जानते थे कि हम इनके गांव के हैं, लेकिन आप कहाँ से हैं पंकज जी?
सर अमृतसर से जी।
अच्छा, अमृतसर से, वाह 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 वाह।
हाँ जी सर, गुड इवनिंग सर। मेरा क्वेश्चन ये था
हाँ।
कि लास्ट ईयर मेरा एक केस ये था कि वो पहले 143(1) में हुआ, एंड इन दैट केस दे हैव रेज्ड डिमांड ऑफ टैक्स एंड इंटरेस्ट जी, राइट? अच्छा, तो जब 143(3) हुआ तो उसमें उन्होंने उसको असेस कर दिया नील टैक्स के ऊपर, यानी नील इनकम के ऊपर, बिकॉज इट वाज ट्रस्ट सोसाइटी, एजुकेशनल सोसाइटी। अच्छा, तो लेकिन बट व्हेन आई हैव रिसीव्ड द कंप्यूटेशन शीट, in that sheet the demand of tax was nil, but there was demand of interest was there. What would be the remedy for us?
देखो पंकज जी, जैसा कि
what we should do,
जैसा कि अब कई बार 2-3 बार शायद हमने बता दिया इस बात को कि चूंकि वो डिमांड निकलने का जो ओरिजिन और स्रोत है वो 143.1 है, ठीक है, इसीलिए आप 143.3 में नील डिमांड से दिग्भ्रमित ना हो।
सर एक चीज ना सर देखने वाली चीज ये है कि जो 143.3 आया उसमें टैक्स डिमांड नील थी, लेकिन उसमें सिर्फ इंटरेस्ट था।
तो वही मैं कह रहा हूं कि वो 143.1 में जो डिमांड है पहले उसको तो आप खत्म कराइएगा, ये चला जाएगा अपने आप।
ओके ओके।
हाँ, क्योंकि फोड़ा कहीं और है और हम ठीक कहीं और कर रहे हैं, ठीक है ना? हाँ जी,
राइट सर, थैंक यू सो मच जी।
ओके,
एंड थैंक्स फॉर योर ब्रिलियंट डेलिब्रेशन सर।
पहली बार सुना है आपने क्या?
नहीं सर, पहले भी आपको ज्वाइन किया है पहले भी।
हाँ हाँ, तो विजय आप विजय जी के प्रशंसक हो हमारे। हाँ
सर जी नमस्कार।
सर नमस्कार जी। सर कहिए कैसे हैं? बढ़िया सब?
अच्छा
हाँ जी,
अच्छा।
हाँ जी, नेक्स्ट।
Sir, we are done with queries.
हाँ।
विजय सर, अभी सर
तो
दो
ठीक।
हैंड रेज, एक हैंड रेज और हुए हैं, प्रकाश सर का हैंड रेज हुआ है।
हाँ हाँ, कहाँ है प्रकाश जी? प्रकाश जी को लेके आए सर।
गोपाल जी।
हाँ प्रकाश, हाँ सर।
I am from Ahmedabad, sir.
अरे सर नमस्कार।
नमस्कार नमस्कार।
हाँ।
सर वेदर,
सर आप अपना वीडियो तो खोलें सर।
सर खोल देता हूँ सर प्लीज।
हाँ
Sir, whether order under section 143(1) can be passed after issue of 143(2), sir, in this present scenario. Earlier it was not so.
हाँ, लेकिन अब लॉ चेंज हो गया है, पहले उस वक्त प्रोविजन इस तरह का था कि नहीं हो सकता था, लेकिन अब हो सकता है।
Okay, thank you, sir.
देखो विजय जी, आपकी इस वेबिनार में कहाँ दूर दूर से हमारे मित्रगण पधारे हुए हैं। अहमदाबाद से प्रकाश जी हैं, पंकज जी अमृतसर से, और भी मैं देख रहा था देहरादून से थे, हमारे आलोक जैन साहब थे, के जुनेजा जी थे, प्रदीप छाजड़ साहब तो मुझे मालूम नहीं कहाँ से हैं, अच्छा बोल नहीं पाएंगे वो, तो प्रदीप गोयल जी शायद बरनाला से हैं, तो यस हाँ जी,
queries are through.
हाँ, तो इसको अब समाप्ति की ओर किया जाए विजय जी आपका।
Yes, sir.
हाँ
Yes,
कमल
sir.
जुनेजा जी भी आ गए, वाह वाह, यस। अच्छा मेहताब आलम साहब पटना से हैं।
फ्रॉम पटना।
अरे भाई पटना से तो हमारे मित्र, क्या नाम है उनका जो बॉम्बे में आजकल मेंबर है, अकाउंटेंट मेंबर,
शर्मा सर
हैं, चलिए ध्यान भूल गया मैं। हाँ शमीम याहिया साहब, शमीम याहिया साहब को जानते होंगे मेहताब जी, हमारे बड़े प्यारे दोस्त हैं। यस, एक्स चेयर पटना, अभी तो हम पटना आए थे आपके यहाँ बजट पे बोलने साहब। यस, आलोक जैन साहब, दुर्गेश खंडेलवाल इंदौर से, देखो हेमंत खत्री साहब तो फरीदाबाद से ही हैं। हाँ
एक क्वेरी और रेज हुई है सर, निशु अग्रवाल हैं जिन्होंने अपना हैंड रेज किया है।
क्या एनलाइटनमेंट तो जितेंद्र जी महात्मा बुद्ध दिया था, मैं तो क्या एनलाइटमेंट दे सकता हूं मैं। यस थैंक यू। हाँ तो अब और कौन सा प्रश्न है?
हट गया उनका हैंड रेज।
हट गया, चलिए तो विजय जी आप धन्यवाद ज्ञापन उपयुक्त समझे तो करें।
यस सर, ओवर टू देवेश जी, देवेश शर्मा जी। इससे पहले देवेश जी।
यस सर।
हाँ तो राकेश जी, इससे पहले आई रिक्वेस्ट मिस्टर देवेश शर्मा, आई वुड से that in the last 2 hours whatever we have gathered out of your deliberations from you as well as from Somil ji, really जिसको कहते हैं ना, आप बार बार हम उसी बात को दोहराते हैं कि उसकी कोई मतलब उसके कोई कंपैरिजन नहीं है, तो हमारे को बार बार वही वर्ड्स रिपीट करने पड़ते हैं। इट वाज रियली सुपर। और जिस तरह का आप ये देखें, जिस तरह का लोगों का एंगेजमेंट रहा है आखिर तक, वो शो करता है कि this webinar was super, deliberations were super. Yes, over to Devesh Sharma ji.
Yeah sir, in order to sum up the whole webinar, first of all I would like to thank all the participants who have attended the webinar, and especially Rakesh sir and Somil to share valuable inputs and with their past experiences and all, which will be very much grateful and helpful in practical scenario. I think we will learn a lot. Thanks to our host for the organizing such an amazing webinar. It was a great interactive session, And last, we have learnt a lot during this webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you,
Thank you, देवेश।
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you,
And मेरे काफी सारे अभी पार्टिसिपेंट्स मौजूद हैं। मैं चाहूंगा कि जाते जाते आप लोग ना चैट बॉक्स में अगले कोई टॉपिक्स वगैरह अगर आपके माइंड में सजेशंस हैं तो वो जरूर आप इस चैट बॉक्स में डालें, और कोई अगर आपको पर्टिकुलर स्पीकर के बारे में कोई अगर चाहते हैं तो वो भी आप चैट बॉक्स में डालें। दिस इज माय रिक्वेस्ट टू।
एक मैं ये कह दूं कि कल एक मेरा और सोमिल का NIRC के प्लेटफॉर्म पे एक कार्यक्रम है, और जिसका की आइडिया हमारी DC गर्ग साहब ने दिया था, तो और उसमें नितिन कंवर जी का भी इसने सहयोग है और अविनाश गुप्ता जी का भी है, कि चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स के इनकम टैक्स एक्ट में क्या क्या रिस्क्स हैं और एक्सपोजर्स हैं। क्योंकि मैंने ये तैयार किया ये चैप्टर, क्योंकि इस पर कोई कभी बोला नहीं, लेकिन मैं जब भी उस एक्ट को पढ़ता हूं तो मैं देखता हूं कि चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स या टैक्स प्रोफेशनल्स के लिए इसमें और इन द कैपेसिटी ऑफ चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट इतने रिस्क्स हैं। एक तो होता है एज एन इंडिविजुअल, ठीक है, बिकॉज आई एम एन SSE ऑल्सो, लेकिन एज ए चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट इतने रिस्क्स हैं कि उसके बारे में हमें ज्ञान होना बड़ा आवश्यक है। और कुछ तो प्रावधान इतने भयंकर हैं कि मुझे प्रैक्टिस करने से ही रोका जा सकता है। ठीक है ना?
राइट।
तो वो कल है और उसका मैं लिंक वगैरह मेरे पास आ गया है, मैं भेजूंगा सारे मित्रों को। और चूंकि NIRC में तो कोई लिमिट ही नहीं होती है, शायद विजय जी बता सकते हैं, विजय जी NIRC में रहे हैं।
हाँ, उसमें नहीं होती, वहां पे कोई लिमिट नहीं रहती है।
क्योंकि उसमें ऑलरेडी 3-4 हजार लोग ऑलरेडी रजिस्टर करा चुके हैं, पर लेकिन अभी भी वहां मुझे बताया गया है कि वहां कोई कितना भी हो सकता है।
राइट सर, राइट।
वो इन एनी केस व्यूइंग के लिए ICAI NIRC पे लाइव अवेलेबल होता ही है।
अच्छा, फिर भी मैं लिंक भेज दूंगा DC गर्ग साहब, मैं लिंक भेज दूंगा। ठीक है, ठीक है। अच्छा जी,
थैंक यू वेरी मच, थैंक्स अ लॉट।
थैंक यू,
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.